Welcome to the Inspirational Manna podcast. The speakers for this episode are Robert Liebeck, Megan Liebeck, and Holly Gardner. I am Michael Gardner, and I will be moderating this discussion. The Inspirational Manna podcast does not utilize or receive funding from any sponsors. We intend to try and help present the truth of the gospel by discussing topics that help people hear the truth and to help people come closer to our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. Today, we will be discussing the question, why does God allow for so much evil in this world? If you happen to have questions or comments for our speakers, please leave your comments on this video, and the speakers will do their best to respond. If you have any ideas for future discussion topics, please feel free to email us at dailyinspirationalmanna, and that's manna with 2 N's, @gmail.com. So, Megan, how would you answer that question? Why does God allow for so much evil in this world?
Well, for that, I'm going to open with what C.S. Lewis wrote. He said, "Free will, though it makes evil possible, is also the only thing that makes possible any love or goodness or joy worth having. A world of automatons, machines, would hardly be worth creating. This happiness which God designs for his higher creatures is the happiness of being freely, voluntarily united to him and to each other. For that, we must be free." So it wasn't his idea to have the evil in the world, but he ain't bypassing our freely, voluntarily reuniting with him and one another.
Our free will.
Our free will.
Well, I would kind of look at it too as like, God, did he create evil?
No.
No, he didn't create evil. But he allows the evil that has been created in this world. And he doesn't do it because he wants to see people suffer. He does it because it's back to is you've got a free choice. You're the one that makes the decisions. So you have the choice to do evil or to try to do good. That's in God's plan. It says right in the Bible, we're all filthy rags, so nobody's good. But first of all, just put that in your head. Nobody is good. We can't be good. But we can be better and good if we follow Jesus and try to learn his teachings to spread it to other people.
Well, and I think it too is so that the man of iniquity might be revealed. Mm-hmm. And so the fullness of evil is being revealed on this planet so that it never happens again. There's no need for it.
That's right.
Not that there was ever a need for evil. God allowed for it. He knew the possibility of it, and he had already plans in place for such a time as it might happen.
Mm-hmm. Well, and first of all, how did evil even start? But it started right at the beginning. As soon as mankind sinned, that started the evil. But that wasn't God's plan. If Adam and Eve would have never touched the tree of good and evil, they never would have known evil.
Yeah, but evil actually started in heaven. We're dealing with a cosmic war that's been going on since there's been a human being. Had God not interfered and entered right away, there would be no human beings left.
Right.
So I guess I look at it as, and I've got a good story that I had come up and found that I want to share, and I'll read that. But it's the lack, I think, of God in being involved. So I'll read this that I came across. It's basically says, can evidence of intelligent design in nature descend in a scientific way to the level of any 21st century classroom or university on the planet, or to the brain power of at least one professor, PhD, or Nobel laureate in any scientific discipline, soft or hard? So, did God create everything that exists? Does evil exist? Did God create evil? So, a university professor at a well-known institution of higher learning challenged his students with this question: did God create everything that exists? A student bravely replied, yes, he did. God created everything? The professor pursued. Yes, sir, he certainly did, the student replied. The professor answered, if God created everything, then God created evil. And since evil exists, and according to the principle that our works define who we are, then we can assume God is evil. The student became quiet and did not answer the professor's hypothetical definition. The professor, quite pleased with himself, boasted to the students that he had proven once more that religion, God, God's laws, and God's representation are all myths. Another student raised his hand and said, may I ask a question, Professor? Of course, replied the professor. The student stood up and asked, Professor, does cold exist? What kind of question is this? Of course it exists. Have you never been cold? The other students snickered at the young man's question. The young man replied, in fact, sir, cold does not exist. According to the laws of physics, what we consider cold is, in reality, the absence of heat. Every body or object is susceptible to study when it has or transmits energy, and heat is what makes body or matter have or transmit energy. Absolute zero, or negative 460 degrees Fahrenheit, is the total absence of heat, and all matter becomes inert and incapable of reaction at that temperature. Cold does not exist. We humans have created this word to describe how we feel when we have too little or no heat. The student continued, Professor, does darkness exist? The professor responded, of course it does. The student replied, again, you're wrong, sir. Darkness does not exist either. Darkness is, in reality, the absence of light. Light we can study, but not darkness. In fact, we can use Newton's prism to break white light into many colors and study the various wavelengths of each color. Your good self cannot measure darkness. A simple ray of light can break into a world of darkness and illuminate it. How can you know how dark a certain space is? You measure the amount of light present. Isn't that correct? Darkness is a term used by man to describe what happens when very little, insufficient, or no light whatever is present. Finally, the young man asked the professor, Sir, does evil exist? Now, uncertain, the professor responded, Of course, as I've already said, we see it every day. It is in the daily examples of man's inhumanity to man. It is in the multitude of unnecessary crime and violence everywhere in the world. These manifestations are nothing else but evil. To this the student replied, Evil does not exist, sir. At least, it does not exist unto itself. What is called evil is simply the absence of God. It is just like darkness and cold, a word that man has coined to describe the absence of the summum bonum, or God. The student summed up, God did not create evil. Evil is a result of what happens when man does not have God's love or love of Godhead present in his heart, mind, senses, intelligence, ego, or consciousness. It's like the cold that comes when there's no heat, or the darkness that comes when there is no light. And the professor sat down.
Yeah.
I think that pretty well sums up
Exactly.
evil.
Yeah. If anything, evil proves God.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then the evil that we're experiencing, that we see, that's all around us day in, day out, gives us very valuable, eternal knowledge. The only thing we take off the planet is our character. Well, that will include our memories. Nobody is going to want to come back to this.
No. Agreed. What I find interesting is this really sums up that evil is the lack of God,
Mm-hmm.
and the lack of God's influence.
That's what's happening more in the world is, like I said, the lack of God. Because, without God, everybody's got their own selfish ways, their selfish things they want to do. They only think of themselves. But if you got God in your life, then you know that it's not about self. It's about doing, helping other people, and that's what the world is very much lacking. The world right now is everything's me, me, me. It's
Yeah.
that's what
Me first, my family first, and it doesn't matter yours. When
Yep.
it push comes to shove, human nature, you don't want to be
Yeah.
around them. I'm just saying.
and whatever it
It
takes
gets
to,
ugly quick.
whatever it takes to get me first. That's the way it is. And
That's exactly
I,
right.
I think I'd go as far as to say that evil starts with self.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's what our human nature became.
Yeah.
When Adam and Eve fell, that's what was on them. It wasn't a legal problem, it's a lethal problem. And that human nature of ours is what we have to overcome. Romans 8:28 says, and we know that all things work together for good to those who love God, to those who are called according to his purpose. The idea here is, even though all of us suffer, it doesn't matter good, bad, ugly, all of us are going to go through it. I'm positive there's not a human being on the planet that has not suffered loss, hasn't suffered so much.
right,
But it will benefit it in the end, the ultimate. Whereas if you have nothing to do with God, this is going to be your end. You won't have an ultimate that'll get you
and
back
God
out of
and
here.
God is just because He showed that in the beginning, like during the time of what was it, Lot.
With Abraham.
Yeah, Abraham said, "Will you save it if there's 50?" And God says, "Yes, I'll save the
The city
city."
of Sodom.
He went all the way down to 10, and God says, "Yes, if there's 10, I will save the city."
10 righteous people in that
But
city,
there was
I'll save it.
but there was only 8 that were righteous, so that's why the city was lost.
No, there's only 4.
So what I'm saying is,
So there wasn't even 10 people in the city. Think about how evil that is.
I think people tend to misappropriate events like the loss of a loved one or whatever to something that's evil, and that's really not. Unfortunately, I think a lot of people attribute that and then question the existence of God when they've lost somebody they love, or
Especially if they lose a child.
yes, especially if it's a child. So I think people really have a difficult time separating the two.
Mm-hmm.
because God could step in any time He wanted to.
Sure.
He could stop any calamities happening. But what that would prove is He's now a dictator, not a. We don't have free will. You know, without that free will, it's.
Well, and
Has
it's
to run
about
its course.
submission to God.
Yeah.
Have I submitted all my faculties to God and His direction?
That's right.
And then I can be helping others.
Because some of this is trials. He is preparing us for
Mhm.
heaven. And you go through some of this, and then you're better to deal with it on the other side, or if someone
Right.
else gets into an issue, you can actually help them.
Mhm.
But it's not much fun. And evil is evil. It's ugly. There's nothing good about it.
So, the one thing that comes to mind for me is when you're talking about like children and so forth. When children are sick and not well and they pass away at an early age, isn't the prize to pass and go to heaven and be with God? I mean, that is the end goal, right? So
Correct.
isn't God showing mercy by taking those children who are sick
Because he's
earlier
outside
and
of
not letting
time.
them suffer anymore?
In space. He knows the end from the beginning, and that probably is because kids go to heaven.
Yeah.
Period.
Well,
There's
we're the
multiple
ones
promises
that
in
struggle
there. Correct.
with the meaning for the loss.
Mhm.
But the child that has passed. I mean, okay, might be easy for me to say I haven't lost a child, but
Right.
finding meaning in it isn't necessarily God's responsibility to
Right.
explain to you why something has happened. What you should take some comfort in is that they're not suffering anymore. And yes, you feel the pain of the loss, but the child has moved on to a better place. So, or will be.
We rarely get actual insights This is one of the questions that God really doesn't answer in the Bible. If you read Job, you want to see pain, suffering, misery, oppression, you want to see all of it, read that. And he asked God repeatedly, why? And when God does show up, he doesn't tell him. He basically lets him know that you don't know what's going on.
Who are
One of
you to
those-
question?
Yeah.
Yep.
You can't handle the truth. I don't know. Something like that comes to mind. But, he doesn't tell. And,
Yeah.
But the relationship between he and Job is incredibly tight afterwards. But please, God, we're told to pray for protection, and I want that hedge around me, so please, God, put that up. Because I don't want to go through some of that.
Yeah.
But you do get to see Satan's nature, because Satan was the one that attacked Job and did all those horrendous things. That's his nature. So when God pulls back and we get the natural consequences of what it is to be separated from God, this is going to get ugly. And there's a lot of people that have totally separated from him already. There's people in our society that don't know what a man or a woman are. They couldn't give you a definition of a mom. It's like, that's kind of one of those prophecies talking about they will have a debased mind. They're there. And there's a lot of anti-Christian sentiment in our country. Around the world, there's Christians being murdered, sacrificed, imprisoned. So it's happening. Some of the disasters that are going on, things aren't getting better. They're kind of heating up, getting worse.
Mhm.
So it's like, hang on your hats.
Mhm.
It ain't over till it's over. The only way you get it over is to get it done. Okay, so that's kind of what this podcast is about. But
We look at our children and
mhm,
what is the world like for our children and those in the future, and you can see where it's not getting better
no, it's getting crazy.
because we have all this technology and education, and everybody thinks we've
Moving
gained
on.
so much over the years, has so much of this awakening going on, but in reality we're
going
doing
backwards.
worse than our parents and grandparents.
You just enable them to kill us quicker. It's crazy.
I look at the kids, how their lifestyles are, and
Yeah.
with all the technology, they're losing their being a kid. I can remember days back when I was a kid. You had all this free reign to do whatever you want out. You go out and play cowboys and Indians, or you can do whatever you want. And out there in the wilderness, having fun, going ice skating, and just not being on
Yeah.
edge, just being a kid. Nowadays, it's if you're not playing with your phone or playing with the computer, they don't know what to do. And I think
Right.
that's why society's getting so. Everybody's coming more individuality, because that's all they do. They spend the time with themselves
Right.
and not out with the
We don't have
public.
connectivity
Connectivity,
with one another, and well, some parents now don't have connectivity with their children
No.
because they're on their devices.
It's constrained. It's limited. And children can choose to block out what they don't want to hear.
Yeah.
They've got so many different things coming at them all at once that the important things get drowned out. So, I did want to address something you said earlier about the whole the hedge of protection and all of that.
Right.
I think a lot of people go through life and they pray and they pray and they pray, save me from this, save me from that, keep me from this, keep me from that. And when they feel like their prayers aren't heard, and honestly, I've been there myself, people don't maybe realize all the things that God did protect you from that you didn't even pray for.
Exactly.
And I think people need to take that into account when you're praying for this, that, and the other thing. Maybe you're not protected from all of it, but you're probably being protected from some stuff you didn't even know about.
Yeah. You don't have to go too deep into the Bible to realize we're all going to go through it. Jesus went through it. All the apostles went through it. John the Baptist, Stephen, Paul. Look at some of the stuff that they went through. God doesn't keep you out of the front line there. It happens to all of us.
I just know personally that some of the things that I've had to deal with at an older age, if I had to deal with those same things at a younger age, they would have devastated me then.
Absolutely.
Today, I shrug them off, and that's really a kind of a testament to having grown from the trials and tribulations you had to go through. So,
Definitely.
Peter said, I think this is in 2 Timothy, I don't know the exact verse, but all those who will live according to Christ Jesus will go through persecution. So you can expect it. He's not going to pull you out of it, but he's with you when you're going through it. That's the difference.
well, I'll wrap this one up then. So that'll wrap up our discussion for this episode. We do hope that this discussion has helped you answer the question, why does God allow for so much evil in this world? Our hope is that you have found this discussion to be enlightening and informative. If you have questions or comments, please leave a comment on this video and we'll do our best to address it. If you have ideas for future topics, please feel free to email us at dailyinspirationalmanna@gmail.com. Thank you for listening to this episode, and we look forward to presenting our next discussion.